and then they end up coming across this drug, they take it for sex, and they get reliant on it. Please make sure no one uses this drug, PT-141.
Game over.
All right, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Ryan, and this is the Thunder Channel. On Nootropics, on testosterone, on male performance. Subscribe to the channel if you know that stuff. Hit the bell to get notified of all future content. Got a couple codes for you guys. Number one, Course 40 for all of our Nootropics courses. You can use that code livecortex.com. It'll take 40% off our most powerful, most informative Nootropics courses. Again, do it in the description below or at livecortex.com. Coupon code 15 now will save you 15% on either the Torque stack or the Cortex stack. And you can do all that stuff in the description of this video or at livecortex.com. And so what I want to do is I want to bring in a video from a dude named Anabolic Doc. This is actually a super smart dude. He's an actual doctor. Discusses primarily PEDs, so anabolic androgenic steroids, testosterone, TRT, hosts of other things, but he gets into things like peptides. And we're going to talk about his take on PT-141 today. Now, basically the gist of it is PT-141 is an injectable peptide that works on binding to the MC3 and MC4 melanocortin receptors. Those receptors I found in a recent video that I did, 6 or 7 months ago on PT-141, actually force hypothalamic dopamine release, and that is the predominant mechanism of action that forces erectogenic properties. So it'll make you have spontaneous, firmer, stronger, longer erections, as well as some pretty superficially manufactured very strong libido. Dose range is like 0.5 milligrams to 3 milligrams. In certain studies, it's been taken up to 7 milligrams. It was initially studied for tanning. Basically, it helps you tan or it makes your skin tan. But then they found out people in the study were experiencing potent erections and had massive libido. So it then became a peptide, which is often used in nootropics kind of spheres, biohacking spheres, PED spheres. I'll talk about my experience with PT-141 and how it superficially increases my erection function and libido. But I want to cut to Doc's take on it and kind of one of the warnings that he gives, and we'll just sort of discuss, some of the stuff that he's got on commentary on PT-141. So let's go.
There is a drug, a derivative called PT-141, bremelanotide, and that is a real drug that the FDA just cleared in America, June 2019, called Vyleesi. And this is for generalized hypoactive sexual desire disorder for women, not for men. So this is a concentrated, focused derivative of melanotannin 2, PT-141. Absolutely been out there for years. You can buy this too on those peptide sites. You'll see both drugs you can buy, very cheap. Now this is just more potent without the tan. So they've kind of cleaned up the molecule without the tan, and it just goes to the sexual aspects in the brain. Now, I've had several patients tell me that they've gotten addicted to this for the sexual side effects. And these are men that are using steroids, their sex function is up and down, and then they end up coming across this drug, they take it for sex, and they enjoy it, and they use it, and they get reliant on it. And I had a patient tell me years ago, Doc, please make sure no one uses this drug, PT-141, or even the tanner itself. He said it's weaker. He said because your brain will adjust to it sexually. It's kind of like steroids, that you adjust your brain to being sexual from steroids, and then you need to be on those steroids. So your central nervous system will adjust, and it will need it. There's some dependence on it.
Okay, so this is actually a great point that I would like to expand upon. I often have guys come to me with libido and sexual issues. It's one of the things that we do on a consulting basis. It's one of the things I've been working on for many years, that I found multiple solutions to various problems. If you understand the pathways, you can fix sexual dysfunction. And a lot of them will go, hey, I found that this peptide, PT-141, was very, very powerful for like one day. They're like, dude, I had fucking rockin' erections. Libido was insane. I felt like I was cured of my problems and everything was back. And then I tried to dose it 2 days later and basically got a lackluster response. And the reason that happens is, it's actually difficult to say. In a video that I did on the peptide many, many months back, I explained what I think is the mechanism of action, considering that the melanocortin receptors, MC3 and MC4, I believe, are actually increasing hypothalamic dopamine release, which would give you erectogenic and libido properties. So let's cut to that video real quick, and then we'll discuss why you really shouldn't be taking it frequently, and it's going to come with diminishing returns.
bremelanotide, which is the other drug name for PT-141, for the treatment of hypoactive sexual desire disorder in premenopausal women, where it describes animal studies suggest that PT-141 or bremelanotide may affect female sexual desire by activating presynaptic melanocortin 4 receptors on neurons in the MPOA of the hypothalamus, leading to increased release of dopamine, an excitatory neurotransmitter that increases sexual desire. So we literally in that paper have we had one in the previous one, but we have a smoking gun of dopamine release induced by PT-141. I mean, this is...
Okay, so dopamine release that's forced manufactured, right? That's forced to pump out from the hypothalamus, you know, has a lot of tightly knitted kind of feedback loops around it. One of them is prolactin. But otherwise, you know, forcing constant dopamine release specifically from the kind of master hormone gland, you know, the hypothalamus, which then pumps out and sends all these signals to the pituitary, and that goes downstream to your testicles and adrenal glands and, you know, produces a bunch of hormones. It's like what is likely happening here is there is some sort of homeostatic feedback response that is toning down the dopamine release from the hypothalamus. And maybe it's just that you can't consistently with PT-141 bind to the melanocortin receptors because they're going to become desensitized, or they're just going to become less activated or active in response to that ligand. Who really knows? I mean, I don't know if the literature is actually out there. We're kind of speculating at this point. Bro, I look like a fucking straight up zombie, dude. Look. Anyway, it is the case that people that try to use PT-141 consistently to get, you know, erectogenic and libido benefits, the effects usually wane, you know, and it's very soon thereafter. Like, as an example, I could take 1 milligram, which is my dose of PT-141, which, you know, gives me side effects like flushing and nausea, but is probably the strongest, most potent level of, you know, erectogenic properties and libido that I want to go to. I mean, I've never tried taking 2 or 3 milligrams. I'd probably be throwing up because I'm very close to throwing up at 1 milligram. But, you know, if I do that and go have a night of it and then try it in 2 days or something, the effects are substantially less potent. And I have done that before. I wanted to see, could I take this, you know, not that I wanted to take it frequently, but is there a desensitization? Is there some sort of tolerance in it, right? Could I, if I needed to, take it and go have a night of fun or something, and then 2 days later take it again? And it turns out that I really couldn't do that in my experimentation, right? It just was not as potent in terms of libido and erection properties at all the second time around. So you're going to find that sparing doses of it are exceptionally effective, but you should dose it, get your effects, and then don't dose it again for another at least 7 days moving forward, and probably sparingly thereafter. What Doc is talking about in this warning on PT-141 that guys will get addicted to it is, yeah, listen, it'll induce a superficially manufactured, you know, libido and erection quality state, a state that you're not used to, and a state that even if you're on TRT and your fucking hormones are totally dialed in and you have great libido, it's not really comparable, dude. It's a whole nother level. I mean, picture if you were, I don't know, taking ecstasy or something and you were just like really, really in that place. Meaning, you know, there's nothing normal about it. It's this superficial, very strong erectogenic and libido state, which look cool if you want to experiment and have fun with it, right? And have a great night with your wife or girlfriend, like totally cool. But don't bet on PT-141 consistently giving you erection benefits and libido like as if it's going to solve your problem, because it certainly isn't. You got to understand that what it's doing is getting in the way of all the other pathways that are supposed to activate, you know, hypothalamic dopamine release and central nervous stimulation, limbic area arousal relating to sexual function, all these kind of inborn neurological mechanisms. So like ultimately the mechanisms that would drive those actions to happen anyway, you've got to make sure that they're functioning up to par regardless. I want to switch back to my video here where I talked about my dose of 0.25 milligrams, which was just the starter dose. I ended up at 1 milligram, which was better for me in terms of function, but came with more side effects, just to kind of go over what you might expect in terms of side effects and, you know, dosing it and whatever. So let's cut to me commentating on my own video.
Started with 0.25 milligrams. With that dose, I had no side effects. So I had no nausea, no weirdness, just nothing at all. I had a mild libido boost, but it was definitely noticeable. I was like, wow, like I'm interested. I'm in I'm in the mood here. And then I had good sustainable erection quality for what was probably I don't know, I want to say like 6 or 7 hours or something, you know, that night. And that was pretty much it. No other weird side effects. I went to sleep. I woke up the next day, didn't really notice much, and that kind of just went on with my life. So then I think it was a few days later, because you want to give this stuff a few days to get out of your system for sure. I went to 0.5 milligrams. So at 0.5 milligrams, which is, you know, higher dose, it's still a conservative dose though, all things considered. I had slight facial flushing, so it's like it seemed like some blood flow was entering my face, maybe some vasodilation in my brain, in my head.
Yeah, so let's quickly address this. Yeah, I'm not sure if the mechanism there is histamine related or prostaglandin related. You know, those are the mechanisms of action of the flushing that you get from something like flush niacin. So I definitely at 0.5 milligrams noticed flushing. I noticed some nausea, and that's likely the dopaminergic mechanism. Like if you take high dose Mucuna, and I mean 15 to 20 grams, which only, you know, Parkinson's patients do to try to avoid drugs, then they all complain of nausea. If you take high doses of cabergoline or bromocriptine, these are dopamine D2 agonists, the common side effect is nausea, right? So in 0.5, so it's dopamine mediated. At 0.5 milligrams, yeah, I got a stronger, as you're going to see, erectogenic and libido response, but I had more side effects.
Because my face looked like noticeably red, and that's a side effect that people do get. I mean, it wasn't uncomfortable or anything. It was somewhat comparable to a niacin flush, if you've ever had that, but without the itchiness or the burning. And I did have nausea that lasted about 30 minutes. So for about 30 minutes, I was like, my stomach felt a little weird. I basically felt nauseous for 30 minutes, but it wasn't strong. It was just noticeable. Like I wasn't going to throw up, but I was like, I don't really feel great. Then I may have been an hour or so after the injection, I had a noticeable libido increase. I mean, now we're talking about very, very marked libido increase, and a very, very strong, you know, pretty much on-demand sustained erection for, again, 6 to 8 hours or something. It was like, for that time period, I was getting into the territory of wanting to go hunting for girls. Like, so my final experimentation where I kind of found the dose that really is, I mean, I'm sort of still unsure about this for me, but it's a really strong dose for me particularly, was 1 milligram, okay? 1 milligrams of PT-141. That lands me, so basically what I figured out is 1 milligram is the amount that I need to take for like extreme arousal and extreme sexual function, and extremely sustainable, streamlined, you know, persistent, on-demand erections, 1 milligram. With that, I had extreme nausea to the point where I was like, pretty sure I'm going to throw up. I ended up not throwing up, but I was like pretty sure that was going to happen, and I was okay with it and whatever. That lasted about 20 minutes. Then I had some tolerable nausea that was still pretty extreme, but not as bad. For another 20 minutes, I had extreme facial flushing on this 1 milligram dose for about 30 minutes. And then, my friends, the most superficial, non-normal, powerful libido I've had perhaps almost ever. I mean, with the exception of like maybe when I was 13 or 15 or 16, like when I was a teenager. And of course, insane erections that, I don't know, lasted 10 hours, like all through the night. And then the next day, like, you know, for half the day, like it was pretty fucking intense, man.
So there you go. Now look, if I were to, so basically the bottom line is, you know, in terms of side effects and stuff, the higher you go on doses on PT-141, certainly the more side effects you're going to have. It is the case for me. It's the case for some of my clients that have come to me saying they've taken it, and it's the case for a lot of the anecdotals out there. Now, but of course, the higher the dose you go in the 1 to 3 milligram range, like the higher the effects, the more potent the effects are going to be on libido and erection quality. So keep that in mind, right? It is a trade-off. There's really no way to my knowledge to deal with the, you know, the excessive dopamine binding somewhere, which is causing you to have nausea, likely in the GI tract, because there are dopamine receptors in the GI tract. So it's just one of those things that you're going to kind of have to deal with. What I would suggest if people are thinking about using PT-141 is like, you got to find the dose that makes sense. As I described, like 0.5 was just fine. You know, perfectly fine libido, like enhanced over baseline, great erections enhanced over baseline, but, you know, a tolerable 20 to 30 minute period in which I had side effects, right? That makes more sense to me these days than 1 milligram, because 1 milligram, although it's powerful and it's ultimately my kind of perfect dose for insane libido and erections, I really don't need to be doing that, right? Because I'm going to find myself at a fucking hotel bar hunting MILFs. Back to Doc's point, you know, the thing you want to keep in mind when taking PT-141 is it is not going to be a solution to your erection problems. It's a great compound to take, in a temporary capacity, which will give you better erections and stronger libido, almost definitely for most people. Use it sparingly, like use it on those nights that you actually just want to do that again with your chick, your wife, if you want to go out and meet some girls, whatever. But don't bet your little mind on like, this is going to resolve my sexual function issues, because it is likely not, and the continued usage of it is almost definitely going to lead to tolerance. I hope that's been useful. As I said in the beginning, look, this is the last day. What is today? Tuesday? This is the last day that our courses are 40% off. So if you're looking to get either the Nootropics God course, 10 to 15 years of me using nootropics all spilled out in a 1-hour video course, or the masterclass, which is a course aimed to teach you what the people at the 6-year mark know and learn, and as far as stacking nootropics and the types of results that they get, or Nootropics Ground Zero, which is a video course that you have to get if you're brand new. I mean, look, there's some base level stuff that we talk about that would make your life 1,000 times easier if you just got Ground Zero first, because then you're going to know the stuff that we're talking about that I assume in those higher courses that you already know. Anyway, 40% off right now. All of our courses, livecortex.com. That ends literally later today. Well, basically tomorrow. So do that as soon as you can if you're watching this video. Again, I'll give you some coupon codes for our nootropic stacks. Torque. Look, this is 6 to 8 hours of stimulant energy. I mean, the stuff is very powerful. You're certainly going to notice it. 5 very synergizing compounds. When you take Torque, there is no question that it's affecting you powerfully. If you want to get 5 to 6 hours or more of solid brain energy and productivity, go buy the Torque stack. Secondarily, our stack Cortex, been around for just about 9 years, very strong for verbal fluency, that dopamine style motivation, mental energy, and kind of just wanting to do work. If you need to be productive, buy Cortex or Torque. I mean, both of them are very good for productivity. Coupon code 15 now will save you 15% on both of those products. If you need my help on formulating nootropic regimens that are targeted toward you, getting yourself back to health, there's a host of things outside of nootropics that I can help people with. Dialing in your TRT protocol, reading your blood work, analyzing it, and seeing what you may need to do thereafter. Fixing sexual dysfunction. It's one of the predominant things that I've been tasked to work on. I didn't choose it, but guys have recruited me in my understanding of neurochemistry and the neuroendocrine side of things to help people, so it's become one of the prominent things that I do. Anyway, you can hire me at livecortex.com, and all the links for that stuff are in the description of this video. Appreciate you being with me. Thank you so much for watching. Again, obviously more content coming super soon. Rock on. Talk to you later.